What do you walk around at? Your weight?
230.
Okay, so 230 squat. Let's say for a set of 10, if you're getting 230, if you can get 405 for 10, that's like good. I think.
Yeah. I'd say I'm, if not there, a little below there.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good squat.
What's up, guys? Derek, moreplates.com. Today we're going to be talking about the man who works out 3 times a day, sleeps 6 hours, and fucking huge. Yes, I said and fucking huge without is in there. That is the title of this thread in the subreddit with the flare anabolic steroids 2 injection emojis. This has 152 comments and it is blowing up right now. This is a highly requested topic over the years, actually. I've had, I get certain natty or not requests a fuck ton, and after a while they're so, prominent, prevalent that it's like, gotta just cover it, dude. So natty or not, Jocko Willink. He has a bloody face here and he looks alpha as fuck. He's basically like a more mature Tito Ortiz, it looks like, in the face. That's who he reminds me of a bit. And obviously there is, a bunch of trolling in the thread. 100 milligrams of accountability a day. Efficacious dose of discipline. Fat scoop of getting after it blend. Don't forget that discipline aromatizes it into freedom. Crying laughing face times 3. I heard rumors he nuts 100 times a day. I heard a rumor he hasn't come since he had his kids. I heard a rumor that he never came before having kids. He pins good directly into his pineal gland. Super physiological levels of ownership deployed. 5 minutes of sex per year. Apparently me, fucking laughing hysterically. Why wouldn't he be on a bit of gear? 86 upvotes. HGH for that huge, ginormous head. Jesus, dude. I literally can't stop laughing. Fucking crying laughing face. All natty Sigma male. Chef Rush enters the chat. So obviously a guy who, does a shit ton of exercise. This isn't bad sleep. It's not Chef Rush level territory. Fucking 2 hours a night and eating, what was it? I don't even remember. It's like 2,222 push-ups, fucking 10,000 calories, training for several hours, getting up on 2 hours sleep, and just being a high functional fucking specimen of a human. This is not quite that level, but it's pretty goddamn impressive nonetheless. Working out 3 times a day, whilst maintaining alpha as fuck composure, bro. So anyways, it's kind of interesting because this guy is a very, very prevalent podcaster. Like, he's been on so many fucking podcasts at this point. He's like the most alpha dude in the podcast scene among, there's like Goggins, this guy, there's like a elite handful of individuals who are seen as like the premier motivational guys in the industry that people defer to for just like getting off their ass. It's like this guy, like they're the guys who are getting after it no matter what. And you look to as the individuals to motivate you to stop being a lazy bitch, essentially. You have Goggins, you have this guy, maybe like Cameron Haynes, like, I don't know, even though he doesn't talk as like intensively as these guys do. And there's some individuals who try to like copy the kind of style they do, but ultimately fail miserably. Or it's too obvious that they're trying to like copy the style of Goggins, and it just comes across weird. But anyways, like, he's a hard motherfucker, obviously. And there's some actual speculation, probably natty now, but no doubt he was cycling when he was active duty, spec ops, love gear from a former infantry guy that knew lots of Rangers on the stuff. Hell, it was unusual to have guys not on the sauce when I was in Cav Scout for 5 years. My brother is office admin in the Marines and him and all his buddies are all enhanced. There was no reason not to. Dudes in the Army probably got dummy good shit too. Same shit as everyone else. We aren't allowed to use gear whatsoever. People do it and everyone knows it. But if you get caught with it, you're going to get kicked out without question. Honestly, worth it to have a safety deposit box somewhere, or if you're young and have to live in the dorms, you got to keep it off base. Like you said, the only way to get caught is if they find it in your possession. I've never once heard of a CO reporting someone for doing steroids. Good luck pinning in the field. It's a huge pain in the ass, figuratively and fucking literally. Sometimes literally with how unsanitary shit gets. You haven't lived until you haven't showered in a few weeks and you're standing in an oven of a porta shitter. Absolutely slick all over with sweat pouring down your face with baby wipes, slim pins, and tests stored in an insulin travel thermos that likely has reached well above recommended temps while you're out there. Wow. My frame of reference is the Navy. Guys usually go ham during their land billet. Way fewer will use while at sea. I couldn't imagine trying to pin on a schedule while doing training in a hot place like something. That was one of the main reasons I never started while I was in. Now I'm out and still not sure if it's worth it. I've heard crazy stories from older grunts about really stupid oral-only cycles pretty common in Afghanistan. Leg and back pumps must have been killer. Worst I've done is fishing out a cycle and maintaining TRT dose during an ITX. I meant to say dudes and Navy SEALs. I just feel like when you that respected and connected, you can get good shit or just got a doctor prescription for anything you want other than like Trent. So anyways, what does this guy look like? You know, what's his progression over the years? Has he even talked about TRT? You would think, again, like I mentioned, he's one of the most prevalent podcast guys in the circuit, that talks for fucking hours a week online and, you know, dives into an array of different topics. And you can imagine, like, being such an alpha macho fucking guy, the topic of testosterone has probably come up multiple times at this point. So I was like, okay, this should be pretty easy to find him talking about TRT. Surprisingly, it wasn't. There was only one tweet I found that was really obvious about if he's done TRT or not, and it ended up getting deleted. And presumably it's about hormone use because he says, haven't tried it, and then the reply is, I don't want to think what would happen to Jocko with added hormones. There would not be enough steak to feed the fury. Hashtag Hulk angry. He says, ha. Now this is 5 years ago, but again, like he already had this reputation essentially at this point. He'd been on Rogan before, he'd been, you know, in the, you know, kind of gained this reputation of being this, you know, like the kind of reputation he's developed over the years was well established at this point, obviously. So, and he's like 50 years old now. So like you would think at 44, he probably would have been doing what he's doing at this point by then. But this was like the most clear-cut point I could find of him saying, like straight up from the horse's mouth, haven't taken it, assuming this was what it was about. I can only imagine it was, given this fucking tweet here. Seems pretty goddamn, you know, telling. Now there was another point where he did apparently mention it. This was in 4 years ago in the Natty or Juice subreddit. This subreddit's been around for a fucking minute apparently. Former SEAL Jocko Willink, guy on the left. So this is the picture he's referring to. Guy on the left, looking fucking solid, dude. Alpha head, bro. Fucking sick cranium. So anyways, down at the bottom, I think I've heard him on a podcast talking about TRT and saying he wasn't on it. Couldn't tell you which podcast though. Look at his jawline. He never needed juice. This guy's just a natural gorilla. He's got Shrek genetics. 100%, besides the fact that he's former special ops who often juice is his physique evidence of steroid use. He's big, but he's not ripped. He looks abnormally big. For you, yes, for me. So, there is some, you know, insight into some things we can extrapolate, like strength metrics, body composition changes, his kind of like involvement in certain things, like obviously, you know, the SEALs, you know, definitely worth touching on, as well as his Brazilian jiu-jitsu endeavors, also worth touching on, but we will go one at a time here. So obviously, you know, looking at what this guy looks like, it is actually pretty interesting how few of pictures actually show what his physique is. The guy's obviously a fucking, like, just by his head, you can tell he's alpha as fuck. And he just has, you know, the stature of a guy who's well built. He's not necessarily like cranked looking, but he's just like a very built fucking dude. Like he's just like, looks like a like solid human who would be very tough to move, if that makes any fucking sense. Like he looks mean, he looks fucking, I don't know, tough as hell. Like this is him when he's younger. This is him, I don't know, in training or competing or whatever. And he almost looks like a alpha as fuck, like Chris Pine, you know, the actor. Like when he was younger, he looks just like a, I don't know, like the older brother fucking house version of Chris Pine. That's what he reminds me of. As well as more recently, he has metamorphosed, if that's even a fucking verb, into Tito Ortiz's fucking superior older brother. I don't know. That's what he reminds me of. But ultimately, you know, built ass dude, but not very many pictures indicative of his physique. You know, like you see images of him. Every image you see of something that looks like a physique shirtless is not him. And the closest you get is like shots of him, you know, in training or whatever. And there was actually, interestingly enough, while I was digging into this, I was like, how much muscle does this guy have? Or is he just well built and he's, you know, kind of like a husky fucking guy, but he doesn't actually have as much muscle as you would think. I found this and I was like, holy shit, this guy is a truck stick. But it turns out that this is actually not him. This is actually Jeff Monson, who is a, let's see, he was a, I'm pretty sure he was like a UFC champ at one point. Let's see, from September 1990 to 2010, Willink was a Navy SEAL platoon commander and SEAL task unit commander, leading hundreds of operations in combat. He earned his black belt in BJJ from world champion Dean Lister, competed at the national level in submission grappling, and has trained dozens of pro fighters. He also coached and cornered fighters in numerous King of the Cage, Pride, and UFC events. Started training BJJ in 1995 under Fabio Santos. Started training 2 to 3 times a day. Damn. He now owns Victory MMA with Dean Lister. He's a black in BJJ under Dean Lister. He's a lean 230, and he used to tap out 20 Navy SEALs per workout. He is a legend in the special ops world. And there isn't much competition footage of Jocko available, but this one surfaced. Jocko facing ADCC champion and UFC. Oh, he wasn't a UFC champion. He was an ADCC champion. My mistake. UFC vet Jeff Monson in his prime in 2005. Although Jocko lost, he did a good job competing against an elite grappler such as Monson. So obviously not afraid to, like, knowing you're on camera and going against like an elite grappler, like obviously you're not worried too much about compromising your integrity as this, you know, overarching fucking alpha dude, because you know you're probably gonna lose, or, you know, like it could be an embarrassing thing for you. Like it's gonna be on the internet for fucking years to come. So anyways, you can watch it. It's, you know, definitely interesting to see him in his younger years go against this fucking tank of a human who obviously, I think, can go without saying this guy is enhanced for sure. Like this is some fucking Mark Coleman vibes. This guy is a fucking meat stick, bro. Like for me, seeing him, you know, hang with them, obviously, you know, reinforces his, you know, skill set and credibility and whatnot in that aspect. Because I guess, I would imagine some people would say like, you know, if there's no footage of anything or no evidence of shit on the internet, you know, maybe you get some criticism or something. But anyways, he, like, you know, does fairly decent against this fucking ridiculous behemoth. And this is what he looked like. So again, not shirtless. You can't see what he looks like, but this is him like 16 years ago. So he is, you know, in his prime, otherwise in his 30s. And, you know, frankly, his physique doesn't look a lot different when you actually look at his progress over the years. Like, yeah, maybe he's packed on some visceral fat. Yeah, he's gotten a bit older. Yeah, he looks a bit, you know, less fresh in general. But I mean, his physique, like the stature, you know, his body composition, it hasn't changed like so significantly for the better or worse that would indicate any sort of like deployment of anabolics at some specific time, like after his, you know, SEAL stuff, or, you know, during it necessarily. So it sort of leads you to think, if he did use it, he's probably using it for years, or it was, you know, fairly minor, and or he wasn't ever training / eating to try and gain a shit ton of size, and was otherwise leveraging it for the stress resilience component, the recovery enhancement, etc. Like a lot of times people in sports in particular are using anabolics not to actually build like bodybuilder tissue, and it's not very obvious that they're using shit because their body composition doesn't necessarily reflect it. And that's where you get guys like Anderson Silva, for example. Did he look like he was fucking cranking for all those fights he was on gear? Not necessarily, but however, if you're going to use something that enhances motor unit recruitment, bone mineral density, fucking, you know, androgenic signaling, stress resilience, etc., recovery, all that stuff is going to be enhanced, but you are only going to leverage it to the extent with which you supply the substrate for actually building new tissue as well. So if you're, you know, eating a certain amount, or you're training fucking 3 times a day, and you're otherwise doing things like BJJ that are not exactly like conducive to muscle growth, like you can still be on anabolics and not look like you fucking took anabolics necessarily. And that is what we see a lot in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world. However, a lot of those guys are cranking out of their fucking minds, and it is pretty obvious. But some of them are, you know, actually weight training like pretty intensively too. It's not like Jocko doesn't, but I mean, like, some individuals respond better to exogenous anabolics, and some of them push them a lot harder, not just at TRT, but at, you know, fucking sky high dosages. And those, you know, physiques are more reflective of kind of like a hybrid of an athlete / a bodybuilder, but it's also partially your genetic response to these drugs too. Not everyone who takes this shit is going to look jacked or have blatant, like, significant cosmetic changes necessarily. It might just be more reflected in their actual performance metrics and whatnot. But, you know, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu thing, definitely worth mentioning, because he did in fact compete against guys like Jeff Monson from American Top Team at the Pan Ams of Submission Grappling June 2005. This is obviously a big fucking matchup. Like, this guy has like high skill set. You know, this guy is obviously a very credentialed guy and is, like they said, he was an ADCC champion, UFC vet. Obviously, you know what you're getting yourself into when you step into the ring with this fucking animal. And you would imagine that, you know, with the lax drug testing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that you would be highly incentivized to probably, you know, get on the same level as a guy who you would speculate is juiced to the fucking tits, dude. So, you know, for Jocko to be like, haven't tried it, you know, like I would be highly skeptical, you know, like even in the SEALs, you know, obviously this would be more speculative than anything. I'm more familiar with actual like sports organizations than I am with, you know, how heavily deployed anabolics are in like fucking SEALs training. However, there are individuals who have come out and tried to be like transparent about how common it is versus rare. More recently, notably, Dan Bilzerian came out with his book where he talks about his SEAL training and what he used to do to get anabolics into the country, and how many of his, you know, how many of the fellow guys he was training with would also be on the same anabolic steroids as him.
In the SEAL training, I got to ask you, because it was so gritty and raw. I don't want to give it away, but what you did during your training on your little excursions down south, is that something common? And does the Navy know that you put that in this book?
The steroids
Is there going to be
stuff?
some controversy from that?
Oh, fuck yeah, man. There'll be controversy about a lot of this stuff.
So you didn't really like get approval for a lot of this stuff?
No, I mean, you know, I think they're probably going to frown on smuggling steroids up your ass across the border.
Well, there you go. But you definitely still want to read it, trust me, because
Yeah.
he goes into great detail about it.
I mean, it's, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, we were going down to Mexico every week. And so every time you go down there, you know, you're taking a risk, right? Like if you get caught down there, you get thrown out of training. So, you know, do you want to risk getting caught going down every week, or do you want to risk the one time coming across the border, you know? And so we figured if we stuck the steroids up our actual asshole, then, you know, it'd probably be the least chance of getting searched. So
Probably, yes.
yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. You know, I don't know what percentage of those guys are doing it, but it's certainly a lot more than I thought when I went in. Like when I went in, it wasn't really a consideration. I thought it was like, you know, steroids are such a big deal. But I think probably, I don't know, over a third of the guys are probably juicing.
Yeah. That's crazy. And it was so gritty how you described it.
So, over a third of the guys, you know, juicing, he would speculate. Again, he's just speculating. He is self-admittedly a guy who's been saucing for quite a while. I actually have a close friend who went to the same college as him back in the day. They're the exact same age, and they would train together. And, you know, Dan apparently has always been pretty goddamn transparent about his anabolics use, like even back when he was actually in his 20s. It's not like he just reflects on this stuff and, you know, like acts transparent now. Like, I don't know how, like, again, I'm just talking about the anabolics. I don't know how transparent he is as an individual in general, but apparently as far back as his mid-20s, like, he was always upfront about his like hormone use and all the shit he was doing to enhance his performance and whatnot. And anyways, worth noting nonetheless that he says a significant portion of guys that he would not have thought were doing it were also doing it. And it's also worth noting that when Jocko was in training, I imagine, or, you know, the head honcho fucking guy, like the access to it was less frowned upon, I would imagine, because it sort of came to a point where it sort of got demonized in the media after some of these like Olympic scandals. But prior to that, you know, when you had guys like Arnold and you had guys in like the golden era and whatnot, like it was very, very normal to just like show up to a fucking doctor and be like, can I have some Dianabol? Can I have some Deca? Can I have this or that? And, you know, it would just get like prescribed. And individuals were a lot more, you know, upfront about what they were doing. It was not as heavily scrutinized. It was not as heavily politicized. It was not as heavily, you know, come down upon by, you know, the actual legal authorities as well. So I would imagine, I wouldn't say access was necessarily, I don't know, maybe access was easier when Jocko was coming up as well, because he's, you know, about a decade older than Bilzerian, and Bilzerian presumably was in training like right during the clusterfuck of, you know, all the Olympic stuff, I would imagine, or, you know, somewhere around that point where it's a lot more problematic for sourcing, you know, like after the 90s, like pre-internet underground lab type scale level operations. There was like this, you know, shitty period for, you know, bodybuilders whereby it was like a lot harder to access shit, and sourcing was like, you'd have individuals like flying to fucking France to get Negma pharmaceuticals, like Parabolanamps. You'd have individuals doing like like actual trips in order to like accumulate certain kinds of compounds that were otherwise like very difficult to get in their respective countries. It was just getting a lot harder to access shit, and sourcing was very, very problematic. And it's not like it is now where individuals just like type some shit in on Google and like find a source, which I don't advise doing, by the way. So obviously, you know, as somebody who is so highly valuing stress resilience, like that's one of the fucking main things this guy's entire brand is focused on, Jocko that is, as well as like gritting through adversity and, you know, like conditions that are imposed upon you that otherwise stress your body to the fucking max, and would definitely, you know, you would definitely be in an advantageous position by having certain hormones that allow you to recover even with a lackluster amount of, you know, sleep, food available. Like he commonly would end up doing like multiple day fasts, or, you know, 24-hour fasts too, even more frequently, from lack of availability, and nowadays more recently because of just general, you know, diet practices. That kind of stuff, like holding valuable tissue on your frame whilst maintaining high level performance and recovery, etc., whilst trying to maintain that high level stress resilience and being like a hard motherfucker. Like obviously you would benefit highly from some exogenous androgens, I would imagine. So that's, you know, obviously pretty, you know, telling in my opinion. And above and beyond that, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world, even now, currently is fucking rampant with hormone use. So to think that this guy was going against sauce fiends back in their heydays, in their primes, and not using shit, when even guys like fucking the Gracies were using shit, and they were like the epitome of guys who are just skill and take out big motherfuckers. You know, like it's really hard to imagine that this guy has not dabbled before. And specifically, if you don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, Royce Gracie has tested positive for anabolics, which as far as I know, he was always a very prominent claimer of natty status, and otherwise represented like, you know, essentially like clean sport and just like high level skill, takes out like brute force, like sheer meatheads all the time. But, you know, even back then, you know, back in those days, it was like obviously his, you know, those kind of days were, you know, like way back in the early UFC. But I mean, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not highly regulated right now. So to think that this guy would have gone into a match with fucking literal houses and not thought like, oh, maybe I should fucking get a bit of help, like it obviously crossed his mind multiple times, I would imagine. Now, one thing to note too is his strength metrics. In a podcast in 2017, they talk about how much Jocko can lift, and he goes into some of his compound lift numbers, which obviously is a reasonable metric to assess like how disproportionately strong is this guy. What are his lifts for relative to his age bracket? Is this like reasonable for just like an alpha natural guy, or does it sound like they are enhanced numbers? And I'll let you be the judge of it, and I will give my insight as well.
I'm not even that strong. That's one of the jacked up things, and it's just like I'm not like one of these guys. Like I see the guys that are winning CrossFit right now. Those guys are freaking destroyers, dude.
But
those guys are snatching insane amount of weights.
So to clarify, he's around 46 here, I believe. So just, you know, some context as far as age.
I mean, yeah, I
but
can't do that.
Well, yeah, but you can't compare it. That's like saying, fucking, my mile time sucks. Still, these college fucking track athletes, their mile, you know, it's like you're like saying yours sucks compared to the best guys, you know,
yeah,
kind of
I
thing.
guess that's true, but it still does suck because like I lift weights.
Yeah,
I don't run.
I think you're strong. Well, let's go into the numbers then.
Yeah, but I'm not saying, oh, you know, hey, I'm trying to run. If I was trying to run a 4-minute mile, then I'd be saying, dang, these guys are so much better than me. I'm not, so I'm not saying that.
Oh, but you're trying
at least trying to be like a little bit stronger than normal.
What do you walk around at? Your weight?
230.
Okay, so 230 squat, let's say for a set of 10.
Okay, so before they get into the strength numbers, he's apparently 5'11" and he's 230 pounds at 46 years old, and it looks like he's essentially been built like this the entirety of his historical data represents. Like I cannot find any images that really reflect some massive aberration in body composition or anything like that. Like he's always been this like husky fucking, you know, mild house of a dude.
If you're getting 230, if you can get 405 for 10, that's like good, I think.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty fucking good. If you're natural and you can do 405 to the grass for 10 at 46 years old. I think that's pretty fucking good, dude. 4 plates, 4 fucking pizzas, dude. Come on.
Yeah. I'd say I'm, if not there, a little below there.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good squat.
Okay, so a little below there, like, okay, a little, let's just say he's doing 375, 385 for 10 at 46, which, like, historically, what is the first body part to get fucked up and mangled by guys in their 40s? It's typically, knees, legs. These are the first things that seem to dwindle in bodybuilders, and maintaining a near 4-plate squat for 10 good reps as a natural 46-year-old is like pretty fucking impressive in my opinion, especially given the fact that this guy apparently trains, I don't know if he still trains BJJ 2 to 3 times a day, like I would imagine probably not, but like maintaining some high level, like endurance / conditioning shit with BJJ plus weight training, plus all the podcasting, plus all of his entrepreneurial shit, plus everything else. Like, dude, that's ridiculously impressive if you're indeed natural. Even if you're enhanced, like I think that's like, if you're just on TRT, like that's pretty fucking good. I don't know many guys on TRT who are above 40 who can do fucking 4 plates for even a handful, dude.
Like the kind good. Like dang, that's a good squat.
I'd say less than good.
Like if
I think 10 would hurt me.
Yeah, so like
10
if
would
you
hurt me.
So but either way, that's good.
Yeah.
So even if you were to go 3 wheels for 10, that's still good. It's good, but it's like okay. It's not impressive, but it's like it's
I'd say
good,
that's
fine.
that's
It's not
That's a big difference between 405 and 315 though.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Like 315
And you're going all the way down though. I think that, I mean, sure, you're used to it. Good for you. Congratulations on that one. But like when I was like 240. Yeah, 240. And I was doing 4 wheels for 12. That was my first set.
That's legit.
Yeah. But it wasn't all the way down. It was
Yeah.
to parallel.
Yeah.
But, like I said, I don't know.
Parallel
maybe-
is always like, oh yeah, I was parallel, but it's really hard to tell. You know what I mean?
Well,
I'm not trying to say you were
yes,
cheating,
no,
but
yeah,
the fact
it's
of the matter
absolutely
is,
true. But in
probably on
my
that set, rep number for 5 was
Right,
kind of
right,
questionable.
didn't get it.
Rep number 7 was a little bit off.
Yeah, maybe. But if anyone's gonna get the correct form, it's me, because in football they care about that stuff. When you test, and I think like twice a year, fall and spring, you test all your weights.
What'd you do 225? How many reps did you do that for?
Bench.
Yeah. That's like the big combine.
Yeah.
drill,
So
right?
when I was playing football, when
Yeah.
I weighed 180, I did 17.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
for
awesome
180.
for sure.
Oh yeah, it was the best
Wait,
one.
you played football? You were only 180
Yes, I was
the
a
whole
wide
time.
receiver.
That was your heaviest career.
Well, I started to get a little bit heavier. Yeah, 190 maybe was my heaviest.
so you're wicked fast, eh?
I was.
Oh, like
no, I'm slow
sprinting.
now.
I'm waiting to see if Jocko says something about his bench because I haven't actually watched this far forward.
I ran for.
And Jade, the same level athlete. You go, like athletically, that's weird. That's reversed, right? You beat him on the 100, and
consistently, like more than
what kind of timer?
90s. So
Yeah,
you
that
know,
wasn't-
hey, what are you gonna
Yeah.
do? I did 225 33 times after football.
Damn,
That was bigger though.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, I haven't benched in so long. I can't even tell you.
Oh yeah, I could seriously right now. Like I remember,
I haven't benched in a long time.
yeah, I'm with you. And I bench just to see how it'd feel, and it's weird. I feel like all stiff and like kind of do my first set with 115 like afterwards, and flat. I never got into that. That's a weird exercise.
Decline bench.
Yeah. But yeah, I think yeah. But the squat thing, why is that funny though? I'm not saying just to you. I think it's funny too. When it's like, oh, that guy skips leg. Like, you ever seen a guy with big legs and he can squat and he can clean, and this guy's legit? Like, you kind of have this, like, dang, this guy's legit, but then he's like weak on top. Well, how come no one teases that guy?
Because he got strong legs.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
No, that's true.
Because
That's
come
true.
on, I mean,
That's
let's
a good
face it,
point.
that looks kind of funny too.
That's true. It's a huge double standard. Some guys are just so genetically blessed. Not very many, but like some are genetically disproportionate in their legs, and yeah, like it's always the leg day joke. That's the funny thing.
Yeah,
But they don't tease that.
but are you sensitive about this?
No,
'Cause
no,
I'm
no.
sensing like.
Well, you laughed pretty hard earlier.
I was more laughing at the whole situation. The fact that you said you had skinny knees. That did crack
Stand
me
up right now. Stand up right now.
That did kind of.
Average person.
Right, but they're not as thick as Dean's.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
so that's
fuck.
Like grab my. and I know like I have pretty big muscles. I know how I would say yours are thicker than the average person.
Right, but they're not as thick as Dean's.
Oh yeah. So
Under hypnosis.
Okay, so no mention of anything other than a squat, but he seems pretty confident that he can do within striking distance of 4 plates for 10, which is fucking great, dude. If you could actually do that, I would be like, huh, how the fuck are you managing that at 46 whilst maintaining this, BJJ routine, all this other shit that you're doing? Like, that's hard, man. That's really fucking hard. And that would lean me in even further in the direction of either you're lying or you're might be using some shit. Could be wrong though, dude. Could be wrong. But to me, I would lean in the direction of dabbling 100%. I can't imagine this is legit. When he says I haven't tried it, I would probably call bullshit on it. Maybe I'm entirely wrong. I would just imagine like there's so many times when he would have benefited from this, like so much more significantly than 99% of other humans, that it's hard to believe you just like grit through it with like your fucking natural crashed hormones, which ultimately will be with the amount of stress you're undergoing, the amount of just sheer environmental factors that he has imposed upon himself. And this is, by the way, the only shot I could find of him actually shirtless 2 years ago, called Sooner or Later. It's just him shooting an arrow, but it's not, is this strategically corrupt? Like, who knows, dude? Like, you're just speculating at that point, but it's just his upper body with his alpha fucking head shooting an arrow.
Run on for a long time.
Yeah, copyrighted. Fucking money, dude. So anyways, that is the end of it. Let's go check out the thread here. Ultimately, it seems like, some people say genetic outlier. He's a Marine. He's been through hell and back. He's a beast. He's a SEAL. He's sauced out of his mind. TRT. Should also point out he's 50, definitely some exogenous compounds in play. Steroids take Jocko. I thought they're drug tested in the military, especially as a SEAL commander. He wouldn't have risked his career. He hasn't gotten bigger since he retired, so I'd say he's natty or on TRT at most. Plus, he's more into martial arts than into bodybuilding. Oftentimes you hear him talk about BJJ. Yeah, so anyways, ultimately, I would imagine that him saying haven't tried it, assuming this is what he was responding to, I imagine he has dabbled. Definitely could be wrong, but there's definitely a lot of incentive for him to do it. But if these are his performance metrics, totally fucking natty, and nothing is inflated here, nothing's, a lie about it, and this guy just walks around natty, a genetically blessed 230 at 5'11", cranking out nearly 405 for 10 reps, whilst also doing BJJ and all these numerous other things. The guy's fucking impressive, regardless if he's on TRT or not. So, this isn't to take anything away from him whatsoever. Like, there are plenty of guys on TRT who, like, it's not a magic pill, even though it's not a pill, it's not a magic injection. It's definitely helpful in a recovery aspect and definitely puts you a cut above in terms of certain recovery metrics and whatnot, above the average, natural guy, the same age bracket, but ultimately it's not going to be something that equates to somebody doing the feats that Jocko has done. Everything he's done is from his own sheer willpower and internal motivation, drive, just being a all-around alpha hoss essentially. And I imagine TRT was something that maybe he has done that may have helped a bit, but I don't think it's the reason he is where he's at, just put it that way. So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. They're much appreciated. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplacemordates.com. Follow me on Instagram, @moreplacemordates, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, it's all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. Get high quality medical oversight from doctors who actually understand what kind of biomarkers and diagnostics you should be getting and how to interpret them. And when I say TRT clinic, frankly, it's just a quick way to say what it is, when in reality, we pride ourselves on preventative medicine and being proactive about addressing aberrations in biomarkers and diagnostic changes and whatnot that otherwise could be averted entirely, or ultimately providing care to avoid any kind of deleterious outcomes to your health, to your quality of life, etc., by actually getting high quality medical oversight from doctors who understand this stuff thoroughly and stay up to date in the most cutting edge literature and represent and reflect the same level of information that I pride myself on trying to put out on this channel. And we stay up to date on all of the current publications. We do very, very frequent clinical meetings to stay on top and educate each other about new findings. And I have never seen such a high-level collaborative effort to stay at the top of the game when it comes to providing high-quality care to patients and ultimately prioritizing education and information over cookie-cutter scripts of hormones, because ultimately a lot of these TRT clinics exist simply to pump out cookie-cutter scripts of TRT, HCG, and anastrozole. That's not what we do. We pride ourselves on the information and education of our patients, providing high-quality care, knowledge, actually explaining why biomarkers might be off, what kind of lifestyle interventions, dietary manipulation, sleep hygiene changes could be implemented to avert the need potentially for even deploying TRT, because ultimately it is a lifelong therapy that is a huge decision, and we want to give the most tools to every individual to be able to leverage the most out of what they're given genetically, as well as through their self-imposed conditions, lifestyle, environmentally, etc. And we want to work through all those and flesh them out with each individual patient to give them all of their options and maximize their vitality, quality of life, health metrics, etc. And allow them to essentially unlock, it sounds cheesy as fuck, but like unlock their potential from a health aspect, a performance aspect, pretty much fucking anything aspect. We deal with essentially all areas and niches of preventative medicine, not limited to hair loss, ED, TRT, but also things like autoimmune, genetic mutations, actual polymorphisms that are common in the population that otherwise go overlooked and can affect certain dietary requirements and whatnot. This is the kind of stuff that we pride ourselves on staying on top of, and you can expect when you work with us, you actually get care that's reflective of a company that makes our money on the consultation services and diagnostics rather than on all of the prescriptions of medications. And that's ultimately where we set ourselves apart. We don't actually care if you end up on drugs or not, so we're not going to pressure you to do shit, and we're ultimately going to recommend what is in your best interest. So check that out if you want a high quality doctor. This is something I wish I had access to years ago. And I'm very, very prideful in bringing this kind of a service to the public and scaling it to the masses to try and get more individuals on the train of preventative medicine. So check that out if it interests you, as well as Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode, pre-workout formulas, and design myself from scratch, my recommended diet model for gaining muscle and sports performance whilst being mindful of micronutrient intake, gut health, overall health, as well as rather than just if it fits your macros, cookie cutter diet models with hitting your protein and your calorie allotments like are given out and sold by most Instagram fitness influencers. Frankly, this is something that is totally different and makes it idiot proof to actually fulfilling a healthy diet model that is also geared towards maximizing muscle growth, strength, sports performance, and is also considering things as niche and very, very overlooked, like thyroid health, electrolyte intake, hydration, sleep hygiene, tolerability on your actual fucking stomach. Like this kind of stuff that goes overlooked by most diets is taken into consideration and made idiot proof in this model, and it's in the video description below, as well as anything else I'm associated with. It is all down there. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.